Hi, my name's Ali, and this is the Rus Files Unite podcast, where we watch Russian films and films with a Russian connection. This is a special episode of the podcast.
About a special movie.
Hi, guest.
Hi, husband.
I was going to say identify yourself, but yeah. So previous listeners will know you, but to those just joining us for this very special occasion.
So special. My name is Carrie Pitts. I am Ali's wife.
Okay, is there anything else we should know that is related to this episode?
I absolutely love Lord of the Rings. I'm just finishing up rereading The Return of the King. Well, I read all three of them. I don't know how many times I've read those books. I really, really love them. Ali and I also met while we were living in Russia.
Cool. Thank you, Carrie. So, in a display of utter professionalism, we haven't even said what the special thing is that we're talking about. You probably guessed from that intro. We're watching the recently resurfaced, I think 1990, Leningrad TV adaptation of the first book.
The Fellowship of the Ring.
Yeah.
By Tolkien.
Yes, yeah. This has kind of been all over the news, and we figured we should probably cover it because there's, as you said, Carrie, there's not been a ton of passing bandwagons upon which we can jump. Oh, the facial expression you're giving me. So we did it. We watched all 2 hours of, well, how would you describe this, Carrie?
That's 2 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. So there's the sound is really bad for starters, so it's difficult to even hear it, let alone understand it, because it's that garbled. So we had to turn the subtitles on, and at one point, well, at a lot of points, the subtitles couldn't get what was going on. So at the bottom, the subtitles just said "Zачем," and "Zачем" translates to "why," as in for what purpose. And really, that kind of sums up the whole movie and how bad it was. Just why? There was nothing about this that was good quality. Zачем? Why would you slaughter this in such a terrible manner?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, in a way, this was the most extremely misguided labour of love ever. It was they really wanted to do this, even though they really, 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 really did not have the resources and therefore shouldn't have. But it's
they had the resources of a high school play, and they were trying to put on a fantasy novel, an epic fantasy novel movie.
The epic fantasy novel.
And it fails utterly. They don't have the budget. They didn't have the screenwriting talent. The camera movements and filming quality, the talent behind that was roughly equivalent to mine. There were parts that were out of focus. There were things where you could tell they were trying to follow something, I don't know, say a torch, and they weren't able to. One of the swords we think was made out of aluminum foil.
Speaking of flames, there was definitely a signature style that the camera had. If there was a candle on screen, 9 times out of 10, if the scene was finishing or they were cutting to a different character, it would zoom hard in on the candle.
And then sometimes the next scene would start with the hard zoom on the candle and then come back out.
Wow, yeah.
It was so bad.
Yeah, it's your average work experience student probably could have done a better job at the camera work.
And the music, and we already mentioned that the sound was terrible to the point where it was hard to understand, but the music was also bad.
Yeah, I mean, part of the sound thing was just the version that, like, the TV station uploaded. The volume is so, like, whispery quiet that you're just kind of having to strain to hear it. Yeah, they haven't subtitled it in English yet, and YouTube is not having an easy time of auto-generating English subtitles, so we were just having to
It was having a hard time auto-generating the Russian subtitles.
Yeah, and as we've established, we're both Tolkien nerds and therefore quite familiar with the plot. But if we didn't know this, if this was our first encounter with Lord of the Rings, it would just be like, what?
Yeah, if you didn't already know what was going on, you wouldn't be able to understand what's going on. I think we were, like an hour and 10 minutes into the 2-hour-long spiel before we actually knew which of the hobbits were Sam, Merry, and Pippin.
Yeah, Frodo was very obvious, but...
Yeah, so if you're like... If it takes an hour and 10 minutes to understand who some of the main characters are that are introduced in the first 5 minutes of the movie... That's how bad a job of character development it does.
Yeah. I mean, we're jumping around all over the place here, but I feel, given the quality of what we're discussing, I feel no obligation to any kind of professionalism. But, yeah, another aspect, the pacing. What can we say about that?
They were trying to include everything in the book, but then had to cut out all kinds of things. It was so confusing. Like, I can understand why they had to cut out the Balrog, because that would be really difficult to do. But it was just like, now they're in Rivendell. Oh, now they're not in Rivendell. Now they're suddenly in Moria. Oh, now they're suddenly in Lothlorien. Oh, now they're suddenly out of Lothlorien. It was just, like, you didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, like, especially... The first episode was just, like, so much, like, trudging along, like... Mm-hmm. And you do realise watching this, it's kind of like it almost amplifies the incredible achievement that the Peter Jackson trilogy is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, you know, how much material they had to compress.
And how they judiciously decided what to cut out. And they kept enough exposition that you knew what was going on, but it wasn't like this, where they needed a narrator to explain things and to skip over different parts.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain things, like, that I know it was good that the Peter Jackson version cut out, but I still would have been cool to see. For example, the Barrow-wights. For non-Tolkien fans, Carrie, what are the Barrow-wights?
They're like these tombs of ancient witch kings.
Yeah.
I guess would be a good way to put it. So they have magic spells on them. They're very dangerous. You don't want to end up in a Barrow-wight.
Yeah, because the Barrows are where they're buried, and the Wights are kind of like, they're sort of like zombie ghosts. It's like they're ghosts, but you get the impression there's like a corporeal element to them.
Yeah.
And they're proper creepy and freaky in the books.
And dangerous. Very dangerous.
Very dangerous. And they kind of have like hypnotic powers as well. So they're one of those things where it's like, oh, these would have been cool if they were in the Peter Jackson version, but where they happen in the story for pacing reasons, totally understand how they got chopped out. But in this Soviet version from 1990, they're included, and they are quite special. How would you describe them, Carrie?
It's basically... It was essentially a circus clown. Like, the makeup, the clothes, everything was just transplanted straight from the circus, didn't have time to change, didn't put any thought into how to change the character, just kept the circus character... And boom, now I'm a Barrow-wight.
Yeah, they were kind of a little bit gothy, though. They were like circus goth clowns.
It was really awful. If I hadn't known that was a Barrow-wight, I wouldn't have been able to tell what was going on.
Also,
I had trouble telling it what was going on as it was, and I'm literally finishing up the books now.
yeah, so this is very fresh in your memory. Because I was interrupting you like every 5 minutes to go, like, did this happen? Like, well, was this in the Peter Jackson film? I'm sorry, I was really annoying, but... Oh, man.
Bad.
It's just almost so much to cover.
You don't need to assault your eyes with this.
Yes, yeah, really save yourself the time. It's... Yeah. I'm trying to decide whether there's any, like, point that you should just watch for the amusement value, but...
No. No, there aren't. I mean, maybe, like, you could do a gif of Gandalf being flown out of Orthanc on the eagle.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the more special effects moments.
Yeah, that one could be good.
It looked like he was riding a fish.
Yeah.
With some wings.
Or Gollum turning into Gollum.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
That was another special one.
Yeah. I mean, mostly the acting was super terrible. I thought the Gandalf was sort of okay, but...
And Bilbo.
Yeah.
Was sort of okay.
Which...
But they are significantly helped by the fact that everyone else is so bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Galadriel wasn't terrible either.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, all of those three had actual acting careers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actor who played Galadriel, she's still alive, she's still working. In fact, apparently she was in a handful of Sopranos episodes. So this wasn't too much of a millstone around her neck, but then again, it had disappeared for many years, so, yeah.
Oh, there was also... another way in which it was low budget, you have the 9 riders, and at one point they wanted them all to appear on screen, but they only had like 3 horses and 3 actors who could do it. So they had the 3 go past, and then they slightly changed the clothes, and they had them go past again, and then they had them go past again.
Yeah,
I think you were not supposed to notice that they were just the same 3 people riding past the same scenery 3 times.
Yeah, it really... smacked of, like, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, except not on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And also so much dancing.
Bad dancing that made no sense.
Yeah. Like, when the Fellowship is arriving in Lothlorien, like, another of the, like, elven realms, they just have, like, these... weird pixies dancing around them and kind of with these very floaty costumes.
The costumes in that scene weren't bad. I could see, elves wearing sort of floaty, all-white kind of costumes. That makes sense. But they're, like, dancing and playing music in such a way that they're trying to put the Fellowship people to sleep. Everyone except Gimli and Boromir, they put to sleep. It's like, this makes no sense. This did not happen... in the movie. Like, why are you putting this here? It's just, it's weird.
Questionable decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the music more generally, like, it's...
80s-tastic.
It is. It's... Actually, the composer was in, like, one of the, like, late Soviet rock bands. So if you've heard our previous episode... on the movie Lieta with Caroline Ridler, she's researching into that whole late Soviet rock scene, but this really does not show that in its best light. It's pretty awful.
Yeah, it makes you realize how much of the atmospheric tension and everything else that was going on in Lord of the Rings is so much in the Peter Jackson version is so helped by Howard Shore's incredible score. And this really suffers by comparison to that.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I feel like we could probably spend another hour, like, dunking on this really appalling adaptation.
It's bad.
Yes. Basically... don't let your curiosity get the better of you. Really don't. But I should say, if you're a long-time listener, you'll know that this isn't really, like, representative of the quality of, like, Russian and Soviet filmmaking when they put their mind to it and they actually invested the proper budget. They could do really good stuff, and that's been one of the...
Oh, yeah.
That's been one of the sort of depressing things about the coverage, because, oh my goodness, like, my phone, like, apparently the algorithm has really got my number, because it's just keeps sending me stories like, Soviet adaptation of Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yes, I know. But yeah, lots of people have been just like, the Soviets weren't good at anything. And it's like, well...
There were even other movies at that same time period, though, when they were set in early 90s Russia or late 80s Russia, they were done well. Because they weren't trying to be some fantasy something or other. They were just about average modern life, in which case they were filmed well, they were acted well, the costuming worked, the scripts were actually decent. This was just not that at all.
Yep, fair. All right, well, thank you very much, dear listener, for joining us for this very special episode on this...
So special. A very special movie.
Okay, so thanks for joining us. Das Vidania, folks.
Das Vidania.
Why are we doing this again?
Because it's in the news right now.
Right, it's topical.
It's topical.
Okay.
And it, like, never happens that anything you do with this podcast is topical. So, we kind of have to do something.
Yeah, we do. Okay.
Ah!